where boom kese pa GoldBod CEO Sammy Gyamfi sa strike beam o say Afenyo Markin o ka say o call o tino tetem kwanche o hu say wa be interview o Metro TV Good Evening Ghana ene OKFM ese kasa say GoldBod aboka o say ka kire GoldBod mo ka bia abusuafo Sammy Gyamfi sa sanija agu NPP ene Afenyo Markin obi age ne de oh yeah, press conference we are this week. What trending throughout the week, you know. Also from who chow mo WhatsApp best we news file on the something like that. 101. Hey, maybe both full video na mom. Na Sammy Gyamfi was it no bagger why chief executive. One thing was it that mo the GoldBod no losses. Full video need to join in a moment. Before that, you must subscribe. We are not any bell notification icon. Video need drop here. Once Ebeka, feel free to leave your comment in the comment section. The comment in here me we have a share link. You know, dewa. Na foforo anya bi ahwe Lel Flower Green Clean Solutions that aseme mo nkaye anopawe nwumre ope clinic company papa mama be preferences you feel onum hospital church bank institution aso dem mama hoye kama hoye hwam dia mesro friend numbers na good screen so ye ten see na enye kama pa be twa no yopo e de amaka kra bi ana ye bejewo backwom access.com say o aburuchi na otemenka na uye project bi ogana anum say eye building e dan na wusi business bi na wusi oba na wo school na apo bi amena kwakosra no me pacho asase na apesa woto wonye two show of the location ye professional group yanko an ye hu to me and the phenomenon na fa she yensa ye be call oba no school mu honum ye ni the teachers na bon komo na ye tioma woni academic progress in terms of the school no community echo sa so na asase no ana edan no ye kwa ba bia contractor na se adu no ye be catch ye be come to catch o entro bi o ye be catch ye more pictures videos ya sama report asase no edan suo ho edan kwan ho ana se dan wuram ye be come to create e de akire ye dwuma de ye di ano no nti pacho log on to backhomeassist.com na fa dwuma de ne shares GoldBod CEO Sammy Gyamfi she wasa strike obia je ne de
Samson, you know, for some time now some of us have been very silent in the media space because of the enormity of the task entrusted us by His Excellency the President. I'm sure you've not heard me in the media for a long time.
That's right.
And even when people have made various allegations against the GoldBod, I mean, we've taken them in good faith as part of the principle of probity and accountability that public institutions must be subjected to. But when...
And I'll confirm that even where unverified, malicious allegations have been made against you and you have threatened to sue, I've had the opportunity to intervene and your lawyers have spoken to you and you have stayed back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But you see something? Somebody will ask, why is Sammy Gyamfi and the GoldBod speaking now? Why hold a press conference, you know, and respond to this issue in the manner you have done? See, the reason is this. There is a difference between constructive criticism by opponents or critical voices and a deliberate, malicious disinformation campaign. A deliberate smear campaign, not grounded on facts or issues, but intended to denigrate personalities and institutions and demonize them in the eyes of right-thinking members of society. And that is why we've had to respond to this matter the way we have done. And I'm so happy that your producers have, right from the outset, placed the issue in the right perspective by playing an excerpt of statements that were made by Honorable Alexander Afenyo Markin on KSM show. In that clip, you hear him make a categorical statement that the IMF has come out with a report, and in that report, the IMF says GoldBod aboka $1.7 billion.
And government has accepted it.
And government has accepted it. Something that he ought to know is false. And I'm so happy that multimedia, particularly your research team, have decided not to be neutral in this contest between truth and lie. Because most often than not, the media decides to be neutral and allow politicians to debate endlessly issues that are easily verifiable. And that is why I was so happy when you came out with that first fact check on Abransare on that $214 million loss that she claimed had been put out by the BOG and later contradicted by a figure put out by the IMF. And that is why I was so happy when you also came out with your own verdict, fact-check verdict, that it claimed by Afenyo Markin that the IMF has said that the GoldBod has made a loss of $1.7 billion is false and misleading. Because this right here is the relevant portion of the IMF's sixth and final review of Ghana's extended credit facility, which they published a few weeks ago. And if you check page 27, paragraph 50, this is what the IMF said about the domestic good purchase program. It says the domestic good purchase program weighs 10% of GDP in 2025. A government cost-sharing agreement at end 2025 involving the transfer of bonds with a par value of 5 billion cedis in March 2026 resulted in the breach of the ceiling on the BOG claims on the central government. And in July 2026, the BOG, GoldBod, and the government signed a memorandum of understanding formalizing the transfer of the domestic good purchase program activities from the BOG to the GoldBod. And it goes on and on. Nowhere do they say in this report that the GoldBod has incurred a loss of $1.7 billion. And if you look at
significance,
yeah, that is actually a different report. That one is a special report they did on selected issues.
That's right.
And if you look at page 10, paragraph 13,
we are projecting that for all of you to follow as well.
What they said is DGPP operations have generated significant losses for the BOG. Losses in 2024 when there was no GoldBod and Sammy Gyamfi was sitting somewhere in opposition. Losses in 2024 were equivalent to almost $400 million, 0.5% of GDP. 1/3 of which were related to gold for oil, that is G4O. In 2025, the significant scaling up of the domestic gold purchase operations led to losses of over $1.7 billion, almost entirely related to the gold for reserves dowry purchases. This amounted to a loss of 17% of the value of gold sold, by the BOG, and I'll come to that operative word, sold. Okay? So, and later on I'll read other portions of it. So you will see clearly that they say that this is a loss under domestic gold purchase program incurred by the Bank of Ghana and not the GoldBod. Now, something to appreciate the dishonesty, okay, of the proponents of this false narrative, particularly Afenyo Markin. You need to go back to what their earlier position on this matter was. In fact, in the last 3 months, the GoldBod has been a victim of this disinformation campaign right from the hallowed grounds of Parliament. Because anytime Afenyo Markin has stood to speak on any matter, whether or not it has to do with the GoldBod, he always finds a way of bringing in the GoldBod and stating that GoldBod has made losses. And it was for that reason that at that press conference, to put this matter to rest, we adduced our annual report and financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2025, prepared and published by the Auditor General of Ghana. And this is your copy, I will leave it with you. And Samson, when you check page 16 of that report, you will see that the GoldBod did not make a loss in 2025.
I've read that.
But the GoldBod made a surplus or profit, to the understanding of the ordinary Ghanaian, of 5.4 billion cedis. The GoldBod, from its own operations, generated non-tax revenue of 970.7 million cedis from 307.7 million in 2024. And despite tripling revenue from 307 million to 970 million, we rather reduce our expenditure from 129.6 million to 109.5 million. And this is despite the fact that the GoldBod had more than twice the staff strength of the PMMC. We still kept expenditure lower because of fiscal prudence. And in this entire audit done by the Auditor General, not a single adverse audit finding was made against us. No breach of the Public Procurement Law or Public Financial Management Act or any law. And yet you have somebody, a minority leader, who is a lawyer and ought to know better, consistently say, the cost will GoldBod me anymore. GoldBod is a scandal in waiting. Procurement breaches. When we brought out the findings of the Auditor General, he spoke to City News and said, oh, the Auditor General was not told the whole truth. GoldBod did not give the Auditor General a full picture of his finances. So Samson, today I will show you what the Auditor General said on page 10 of this report. These are the words of the Auditor General. The Auditor General says this: we have audited the financial statements of the Ghana GoldBod, which comprise the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2025, statement of financial performance, statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, including summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory notes to the financial statements set out on pages 21 to 41. In our opinion, these financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the Ghana GoldBod as at 31st December 2025, and of its statement of financial performance, statement of changes in equity, and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, IFSAS, and the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, and in a manner required by the Ghana GoldBod Act 2025, Act 1140. This is the opinion of the Auditor General. So they came out and said, GoldBod has made losses. The Auditor General says nothing of that nature has happened, and GoldBod has so far demonstrated frugality, fiscal prudence. You see everything here. Then they change that line of attack and they say, oh, the IMF has said the GoldBod has made a loss. And as I've read to you from the two publications of the IMF, and if you don't believe me, at least believe Joy News Research Desk, they have confirmed that the IMF has never said that the GoldBod has made a loss. Now, when we talk about the revenue we made in 2025, for which reason we perform so well financially.
A lot of people, if you don't mind, first of all, what's the source of your operating revenue? Good.
Thank you so much. So, GoldBod, like any other SOE, is allowed to raise funds in accordance with law. And if you look at the Ghana GoldBod Act Section 18, the funds of the GoldBod may come from funds allocated to it in the budget approved by Parliament, or funds raised by the GoldBod from the financial markets, or funds raised by the GoldBod through borrowing, or funds accruing to the GoldBod from its fees and charges. And if you look at what constitutes fees of the GoldBod, number one, our license fees. When you apply for an aggregator license, you pay an application fee of 100,000 cedis to the GoldBod. And when we approve your application, you pay a license fee of the cedi equivalent of $500,000 to the GoldBod. When you apply for our self-financing aggregator license, we charge you cedi equivalent of $1,000. And when we approve it, you pay a license fee of 10,000 cedis. When you apply for our Tier 2 gold buying license, you pay 2,000 cedis. And when we approve it, you pay a license fee of 20,000 cedis. When you apply for our Tier 1 license fee, you pay a fee for the application of 1,000 cedis. And when your application is approved, you pay a license fee of 10,000 cedis. Then the large-scale mining companies, before they will export gold, must bring that gold to us to assay. And because assay costs money, equipment, workers that must be paid, consumables, machines that must be maintained or replaced, large-scale mining companies will have to pay an assay fee of $90 per every sample we assay. And sometimes for one consignment, they are a lot, because from every bar, you must bring a sample.
Okay.
And we charge $90.
Right.
And when the large-scale mining companies are smelting their gold, GoldBod officers we call them field inspectors, go to their gold rooms to observe the smelting, to make sure that they are not under declaring purity quantities and all that, and cheating the state. And when we visit, we charge them $840 per visit. These are all in the fees and charges approved by Parliament.
Right.
Now, if you buy ASM gold, artisanal small-scale mining gold, and you are exporting it, whether you are Bank of Ghana, or you are MIF, or you are a self-financing aggregator, or you are a private exporter, whether Ghanaian or foreigner, you must pay an asset fee approved by Parliament of 0.258%. We issue licenses to refineries, and the refineries pay $10,000 as application fee, and license fee of cedi equivalent of $50,000. We issue licenses to jewelers and fabricators, and they pay an application fee, category A, 1,000 cedis, category B, 5,000, category C, cedi equivalent of $10,000. The license fee for category C is cedi equivalent of $30,000, category B, $20,000, category A, $10,000. So all these fees put together is what gave us our non-tax revenue of $970 million. Admittedly, because the Bank of Ghana was the sole buyer through its aggregators like PMMC and Red Sapphire, and the ASM gold is bigger in size, if I can put it that way, than the large-scale gold. A lot of our revenue came from the ASM side. But that was the case in 2024 before GoldBod, even under the PMMC. That was the case in 2023 when it was private people who were buying the gold. So this is where we got our revenue from. We are not sitting at GoldBod just milking like a parasite another institution. Every fee we charge is approved by Parliament for legitimate services rendered, which services cost us money. And all persons who access those services pay those fees. It's just like going to the Registrar General Department to incorporate a company. You will pay a fee to the Registrar General's Department.
That's right.
If you go to DVLA to renew your license, you will pay a fee.
Right.
It is, those institutions are not milking you or causing losses to the state.
And these licenses you issue, at this time, we're talking about how many of them?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000
Over
of them.
1,000.
Okay.
And when GoldBod makes money, that may discharge of its statutory duties, which funds are part of the funds of Ghana, and somebody will say that those funds have caused a loss to Ghana. Because GoldBod's money is Ghana's money. And the Minister of Finance can move that money just by giving the controller. That is why we can't open a bank account without approval of the controller. If it's a CD account. And we can't open a dollar account without approval of the Minister of Finance. Our money is the money.
At the start of your operations in April 2025,
yes,
the state had to sort of capitalize you, give you money.
Yes.
Whose money was that?
That is the taxpayers' money. So the state sets up a new agency called GoldBod. When you set up a company in the private sector, the shareholders must capitalize the company. You must give the company equity or debt to capitalize the company. So government says, I set you up to trade gold. I'll give you a one-time revolving seed capital as my equity of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis, which Parliament approved.
That's right.
But that money was not released to us until the 30th of December 2025, when the year had ended.
Okay.
And so it's one of the reasons why we were only able to begin the implementation of our statutory mandate in March of 2026. Now, having explained the issue around GoldBod's own financials and demonstrate to you that no loss has been made, and giving you a sneak peek into what constitutes revenue for us, for you to see that it comes from many, many areas, and it is all approved by Parliament. And having demonstrated to you that the IMF has not said we have made any losses, nor blamed us for any loss. Let me tell you something.
And the Auditor General gave you a clean bill of health.
Clean bill of health.
Okay.
Let me tell you something that this IMF report discloses, and something that it doesn't disclose, which the media has not seen. Number one is that the first sentence of this paragraph 13 of the IMF's report on selected issues discloses something really serious. It says that the domestic gold purchase program operations have generated significant losses for the BOG. Losses in 2024 were equivalent to almost $400 million. What does this reveal? It reveals that the Bank of Ghana, under the NPP and under the leadership of Philip Addison, concealed, covered up domestic gold purchase program losses for 2024 in the audited financials of the Bank of Ghana.
How do you say that?
You recall that in December, when the first IMF report disclosing a loss of $240 million came out, I came to the studio.
Yeah.
And I read to you from my phone losses that domestic gold purchase program had incurred from inception 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024.
That's right.
The NPP rep on the show, Kabiru, also read from the NPP's audited financials and told you that the figures I am quoting are not in the audited accounts. And so I had to give you my phone and told you to confirm whether that message had not been sent to me by the governor. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
You also recall that the governor himself went to the Public Accounts Committee, where the chairperson, Abnasari, asked him to confirm whether losses were made under domestic gold purchase program in 2024. When the governor mentioned that a loss of 5-point-something billion was made in 2024, the lady said it is not true, and that the governor should show her which part of the 2024 audited financial statement of the Bank of Ghana discloses that figure. Because that figure is not there. So they were covering up their domestic gold purchase program losses. And that is why Afenyo Markin can sit on TV and say, why in the ton gold boka? Forgetting that from 2021 to 2024, they made losses upon losses under domestic gold purchase program. Because the intention was not profit and loss. The policy intention was national economic stability through foreign exchange generation, as I have already explained. You see, so the IMF has actually exposed a cover-up of losses that Ghanaians would have never known occurred in 2024. Now, number two, and I'm happy that in this report, when you read it, the IMF says that a forensic audit is being conducted by the Bank of Ghana into domestic gold purchase program from inception, 2021 to 2025. When they are done, the IMF says the Bank of Ghana will conclude that audit by 2026 third quarter this year. When they are done, we will know all the losses they covered up for 2021, 2022, and 2023 and 2024. Because IMF has only unearthed the 2024 one. But do you know that this 2022 billion, this 2025, $22 billion CD loss, or $1.7 billion loss is no news, and that the BOG itself has put out this figure, and that My Jaw Online on the 1st of May 2026 reported that BOG had incurred a loss of 21.8 billion cedis. Just 1st May. And your producers have put it on the screen.
Yeah.
This was put on Facebook. Look at the date.
Yeah.
1st May 2026.
That's correct.
BOG records 21.89 billion gross loss on GoldBod gold purchases in 2025 as government absorbed 5 billion cedis. This was the story My Jaw Online did. And let me read the relevant portions of what the Bank of Ghana itself said in FAQs it released around that time.
That's right.
Question 17. This is Bank of Ghana. The question is, what is the precise breakdown of the gold program net loss of 9 billion? They give you a breakdown. Because the 9 billion they reported in their financial is net. The 22 billion, which is equivalent to $1.7 billion, is gross. So they give you the breakdown. They say the net loss of 9 billion cedis on gold transactions comprises two programs. The Gold for Reserve program accounts for 8.85 billion of that net figure. The Gold for Oil program, which was discontinued in March 2025, accounts for the remaining 203 million. So from January, February, March, Gold for Oil lost by Bank of Ghana 203 million. GoldBod is not part of Gold for Oil. Within the Gold for Reserves figure, This is the Bank of Ghana. The gross accounting loss on Dory Gold transaction was 21.89 billion cedis. They didn't hide it. The gross figure was reduced by 3 offsetting items. A government cost share of 5 billion, representing the government of Ghana's agreed contribution to program costs in line with the strategic recapitalization of the bank. 2, realized fair value gains on monetary gold of 7.9 billion, being gains previously held in other comprehensive income that were reclassified to the profit and loss account upon the disposal of the related gold. And 3, interest income earned on gold deposits of 47.8 million Ghana cedis. So they are honest to tell you that the gross loss was 21.8 billion. Government said what we had done had benefited the nation and we needed to be recapitalized. So government gave us 5 billion. So we used that to reduce it and brought it from 21.8 to 16 billion. Then we had gold that we bought at price X, but the price had gone up to X plus 2. And we sold that gold, so we added the gains of 7.9 billion to reduce it further. And then we had gold deposits that we made income on of 47 million, and we used that to reduce it further. What you have left is the net loss of 9 billion cedis, which can be found in their note 13 on page 63 of their 2025 audited financials. No cover up. But you see, what the IMF has put out as the 2024 figure of $400 million is a net figure. So if you compare $400 million net, which is 5.6 billion cedis for 2024 net, to a gross figure of 21.8, that is not correct analysis. You compare gross to gross. So if Bank of Ghana's loss for 2025 gross is 22 billion, tell us what the 2024 gross was. But you told us the net of 400 million. And that is why the media should follow up with the ongoing forensic audit at BOG, which the IMF says will be concluded by third quarter this year. And they are auditing domestic gold purchase program from 2021 to 2025. And we will know all the losses that some people covered up so that they can accuse others falsely for selling gold and incurring losses. Now, having explained these issues, I have said this, that when you hear the GoldBod explain that it has not made a loss, it is not shifting responsibility or liability to the Bank of Ghana. You see, some say, why did our parents give us names when we were born? Why are we all not called Kofi? You see, when somebody comes out to say that Samson Ladi's law firm has incurred a loss, when in actual fact, it is Kofi Bentle's law firm that has incurred a loss, will your law firm keep quiet?
Of course, we won't be excited about that.
And when you rebut, then they say, oh, every loss is a loss. So whether it is Samson Ladi's loss or Kofi Bentle's loss, there is a loss. I say, well, what be that? So what we are saying is that put the losses where they belong, like the Bank of Ghana itself has done and the IMF has done. And let us now discuss. And if we are discussing that, we have said that, look, the current leadership of the Bank of Ghana has done nothing wrong, in the sense that they were implementing a domestic gold purchase program that was designed by the previous government not to generate profits. They designed it to generate foreign exchange, knowing very well that losses were going to be made. And that is why the government at the time announced that they were going to buy gold under domestic gold purchase program at spot prices. This was the announcement made through the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, my good brother Samuel Abu-Jinapor, on November 28th, 2022, published by Graphic Online.
Right.
And in this publication, Abu-Jinapor is emphatic that on pricing, he says that Mr. Jinapor said gold to be purchased by the Bank of Ghana and the PMMC will be at spot price with no discounts. Who buys gold at spot price with no discounts and expects to make profits? So you designed it that way. You wanted economic benefits. Therefore, just to land so that you ask me the question you want to ask me, my argument in defense of the current leadership of the Bank of Ghana is this. If economic benefit was objective, then did they achieve it or not? In 2025 or 2024, when the same domestic gold purchase program incurred a loss net of $400 million, the rate of inflation was 23.8%. In 2025, when on net basis, they incurred a loss of $9 billion, which is $830 million. $9 billion, $830 million. The rate of inflation was 5.4% from 23.8. Food inflation 2024, 27.8%. 2025, 4.9. CD appreciation. The CD depreciated 2024 by 19%. 2025 appreciation of 41%. At the interbank level, you needed 14.7 cedis to get $1 in 2024 December. Under them, you needed 10.45 cedis to get $1. Lending rates reduced from 30% in 2024 to about 20% in 2025. And I can go on and on and on. We are all living witnesses to the economic benefits of what the IMF did, to what the Bank of Ghana did in 2025. So it is on that basis that I say that don't just look at accounting profits and loss. Look at what that program, which is different from what the GoldBod is doing in 2026, but look at what that program was intended to achieve and whether they achieved it. We can argue about whether they could have reduced the cost. That is a legitimate question. But don't attack them and don't say that that loss was because of corruption. Then this point, look, if you are watching me, write these figures down with all due respect. I had an institution through which every good purchased, assayed, and exported must go through. And so I can tell you that in 2024, the Bank of Ghana bought gold of a total of, ASM gold, of a total of 46.5 metric tons. Write it down, 46.5 metric tons. That gold was supplied by two aggregators, Red Sapphire, private company. They supplied 31.5 tons. And PMMC supplied 15 tons. So Red Sapphire supplied more than double what PMMC supplied. So 46 tons. The value of that gold was $3.2 billion. So somebody bought gold of a quantity of 4 metric tons, valued at $10.9 billion. 10.9, and recorded a net loss of 9 billion cedis, equivalent to $840 million. Do the math and judge whether this in 2025 there was cost efficiency or there was recklessness. And finally, on that point, because I want to address the reasons that have been canvassed by Afenyo Markin and some commentators to the effect that GoldBod is responsible for BUG's losses because GoldBod was the one that bought the gold. So because GoldBod charged fees.
So that's a central question I was going to go to.
Yes, but I want, before that, I just want to
reading
make
the
one
IMF
last
statement.
All right, okay. I want to make one last point. Okay. Now, if you don't want to believe Sammy Gyamfi that the Bank of Ghana did nothing wrong in 2025, and that whatever accounting losses that were reported is in line with policy design and reflects all the losses that the BOG has made under that program 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. And that you should assess them not only on the basis of the accounting losses, but the economic benefits that generated. Right. Without prejudice to the call for us to look at whether or not they could have done so or achieved the same thing at a lower cost. At least listen to the NPP. And I'm going to read the words of the NPP to you. In September 2025, not 2024, 2025, yeah.
Okay.
Imani came out with a publication on gold for oil, where they blamed Bank of Ghana for opacity surrounding gold for oil, and said that because of how they had poorly managed gold for oil, which is a component of domestic gold purchase program. Okay. Domestic gold purchase program is made up of gold for reserves, gold for FX, and gold for oil.
Right.
Imani said because of how you poorly manage it, Bank of Ghana had made losses. The NPP issued a press statement dated September 29, 2025, and sought to rebut that claim that had been made by Imani. This is what the NPP said. Point 4. Imani claim. Imani interprets BOG's reported losses under the Good for Oil program as evidence of financial mismanagement or diversion. The same thing they are saying here, that Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program loss means that people have mismanaged and Sammy Gyamfi cannot even meet his bill conditions and all that. NPP says this is their response to that. Facts. BOG transparently reported, and they are bolding this, forest liquidity support cost. So what today they are calling losses, they call forest liquidity support cost. In other words, cost that Bank of Ghana incurred to make sure that there was forest liquidity dollars. So you see, BOG transparently reported forest liquidity support cost of 1.8 billion cedis in 2024, up from 317 million cedis in 2023. They called gold for oil losses forest liquidity support cost. These are not diversions of funds, but the cost of stabilizing forest supply to facilitate gold for oil imports. BOG's seed capital of 4.69 billion was fully traceable in its balance sheet and confirmed via RTI disclosures. Losses were published in BOG's audited financial statements and approved by its boss with no evidence of corruption. Then in their conclusion, this is what they say. The Gold for Oil program has been misrepresented by Imani and factually inaccurate, laced with speculations. The verifiable facts are no evidence exists of the alleged leakage. Boss financial performance and profitability improved significantly under Gold for Oil. The program reduced forest pressure, stabilized the CD, and maintained consistent fuel supply. BOG's reported costs, not losses, costs, were transparently disclosed as liquidity support measures, not evidence of corruption. These are the words of the New Patriotic Party. And today, they have forgotten that they were making all these losses under domestic gold purchase program. And they are saying that it is when Sammy Gyamfi and the GoldBod came into being in Ghana's gold ecosystem in 2025, that all of a sudden, through our recklessness, Bank of Ghana is making domestic gold purchase program.
So as I said,
let's go to those.
As I said, same paragraph 19.
GoldBod. And the GoldBod better than you. Sammy Gyamfi was one thing was that. But the program no SC NPP and another janto mo better than on so katwa show mo so for Steve Zandodie. You best anybody share bubium. Bye bye.